Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to this review of another Tier 2 gift tank, this time the T7 Combat Car. I believe this was actually a gift for World of Tanks winning the golden something in the Golden Joystick Awards. Anyway, this is an American Tier 2 premium light tank that was given out in 2013. But since it was given out, it has actually received a buff, which I'll get onto in just a moment. So what do you get with this thing? Well, you get a pretty standard amount of hit points, 150. Respectable engine power, giving this thing a good power to weight ratio of 26 horsepower per ton, which means it accelerates well, and a speed limit of 56 kilometers an hour, which was a very welcome change from the original 35 or 37 kilometers an hour or something like that, which was just painful. It meant this thing accelerated up to a decidedly underwhelming speed and was just not very good. With the increase in this top speed, this thing has become more fun to play. It turns well, 44 degree traverse speed, but the armour is utter garbage. The view range is not very good, but this is only a Tier 2 machine. I mean, how does this compare to other Tier 2s? Well, it's better than the T1E6, and actually better than the T2 light tank. So for a Tier 2 machine, this doesn't seem too bad, but the view range is not amazing, and the signal range is pretty poor. So what does that leave to concern yourself with? Well, of course, you have the gun, and the gun is one of the distinctive features on this tank. And I should say at this point, when this was actually conceived of historically, it was designed to be an anti-infantry light vehicle, light tracked vehicle. It was never designed to fight other tanks, and as a result, it has a machine gun. No, not an autocannon or anything like that. This is a proper 50 cal machine gun, Tier 1 gun. 12 millimeters. This is a 12 millimeter gun. It holds 50 shells in the magazine. It unloads them very quickly, but takes 24 seconds to reload the clip, to reload its magazine, which is a long time, especially in a Tier 2 game. The average penetration is utter garbage, 27 millimeters, which means that you will even struggle to penetrate some Tier 2 tanks, although this thing never sees Tier 3s, thank God, because it would be painful. And while it only does 8 damage per shot, combine that with the 50 shells in the magazine, and that means that you have a burst damage of 400, which at Tier 2 is very high. That's enough to kill 2.5 basically complete Tier 2 machines. The accuracy sucks, the aim time's pretty good, and basically you want to use this gun up close and personal. But one thing you will notice about this, it only has one ammo type, armor piercing. There is no option to load a higher penetrating round or anything like that. So you are really limited when you come up against things like T-18s and the Hotchkiss tanks, the H-35, and basically you just have to avoid them. Which is a pity, because T-18s are all the rage at Tier 2. But there we go. So this is a machine gun. Couple that with the good gun depression, and basically you just blitz around the battlefield trying to find the sides and rear of opponents, or find lightly armoured opponents and open up on them and kill them with one clip of ammunition, possibly kill two opponents with the same clip, and then just drive away and giggle to yourself. Again, it's an assassination tank, but compared to the other Tier 2 premium American gift tank that I've talked about that's also an assassination tank, the T1E6, this thing can actually deal with some of the tougher opponents. This cannot. Really can't. But it never sees Tier 3 tanks, which is definitely a plus. As it's a premium tank, there are no modules to unlock, so there is no grind relating to this thing. And as for the crew skills, I'm not going to talk about those, because basically just put in any crew from an American light tank that you have. So for example, I would take my Chaffee crew and whack it in this, or possibly my T21 crew and put it in this. As for the equipment options, well, it's only Tier 2, so you are decidedly limited. You can see that I've gone for improved vents class 1, 50,000 credits worth. I mean, really, you don't need to bother with equipment on this thing at all, but I've given it vents. Toolbox, not really worth it. Enhanced gun laying drive, you already have a good aim time, and it's 500,000 credits. Coated optics, an extra 10% of bad is still bad, and it's 500,000 credits, don't bother. Binos and camo net are options, and you could just put them on, remove them, you know, without any cost, that's fine. Spore liner, waste of everyone's time, and then you have improved vents. So I would recommend vents, binos, and a camo net, or if you don't want to spend the money on vents, a communal toolbox will do fine. That's equipment. As I say, there's no point talking about crew skills, so let's just jump into the armor scheme. So here we go in Tank Inspector to have a quick look at the armor scheme on the T7 combat car. Before we talk about that, however, I did want to mention one thing. It's a stat that you can see in Tank Inspector that you can't see in the garage. Gun depression, 15 degrees. 15 degrees. This thing has phenomenal gun depression. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, armor, toilet. It's really, really, really bad. The thickest armor is 16mm. I mean, if you look at the armor from the front even. That's 16, bit of sloping, doesn't matter. That's 13. Let's just change the caliber of the shell for calculating auto pen. 47mm, why not? 16 armor will be penetrated by everything and its uncle. 13, bit of sloping, goes up to 15 or 16, will be penetrated by everything, everything, turret, everything. There's even weak spots on this. Side armor, garbage, angled. With the tracks, you can get some effective armor going on, but basically, the armor on this thing is non-existent. You can generally load high explosive shells and penetrate this thing reliably. So let's not labour the point, let's just go straight into a replay after this, because the gun depression, sorry, not the gun depression's amazing. The armour is utterly woeful. So here's the game that I wanted to show you. It's a tier 2 game. We are here on Himmelsdorf. Of course, down at tier 2 you're quite limited with the range of maps. I think there are only 4 maps you can get on in tier 2 games. This, Province, Mines, and one other that I've forgotten. Kampanovka, of course. How could I forget Kampanovka?
Time to roll out.
So we're going to see what we can do. And you can see that the reload time on this gun is pretty damn long. So we're just going to go up toward the hill. Now the thing you have to be careful in tier 2 games, and especially on Himmelsdorf, and in particular if you decide to go to the hill, is the American Tier 2 T-18 tank destroyer with the, well, usually with the 75mm howitzer. That thing is a nightmare, especially because with this poncy little gun, you really do struggle to hurt the T-18 from pretty much any angle. You basically have to have flat shots into its bum to have a respectable chance of penetrating. Nonetheless, I'm going up here with a T2 light and a pair of T-18s, and we've got a couple of other people coming with us as well. And we're going to see what we can do. So you can see the engine power on this thing's fairly respectable. We're going up this hill at a good steady 30 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good. And just moving over. I don't really want to be the one to engage the opponents head on. There's a T-18. There's another T-18, because T-18s do not make me happy. They are very problematic for me to deal with. You don't get the option of loading premium ammunition of any description with this thing, you just have to make do with your regular AP. A T2 light, however, him I can give problems. So, there's half a clip into the T2 light. And there's the other half a clip. And we reload. And for some reason at that point I decided, rather than pressing C to reload, I was just going to empty the magazine. Fair enough, whatever. You get plenty of ammunition in this thing, it won't really make a difference. Now, we didn't get the kill, but we got most of the HP off of that T2 light, so that's not too bad. And we're currently losing 2-3. Now, there's some other fellows up here. A Chi-Ni we should be able to hurt. And we've got good gun depression. T7, well, that's exactly what we're in, so we have to be aware that he can clip us, and that would be bad. Bounce on the Chi-Ni, so open up at the T7. He opens up at me, but I was doing it first, and I think someone else might have been shooting him as well, and I managed to take him out. And reload the clip. And there doesn't really appear to be anyone else down here, so we appear to have won the hill. We're currently winning this game 9-5. And onwards we go. So while we reload the clip, I just decide to press on, getting up to a good top speed, doing 63 kilometers an hour going downhill, and just trying to make our way through to places that hopefully someone won't be expecting us to appear from, and unload this clip into their posterior. Just having a look around. Oh, H-35, no thank you very much. H-35 has excellent armour all round. I basically stand zero chance of penetrating him. You know, there might be the odd spot I can pen him in, but I really don't want to have to try. It's not going to go too well, so instead we just open up at him, hopefully take his tracks off, and go round him. I'm not interested in fighting that guy whatsoever. It's just not worth my time. And we go looking for someone else to hurt. T2 medium eventually takes out that Hotchkiss tank. And there's a Panzer II showing us his bottom. Excellent, because I don't think I can pen him from the front. We've got half a clip, which is perfectly sufficient to kill a Panzer II, and we reload. Come around here, there's just a Panzer II and an MS-1 remaining. One of them is over by our base. That was the MS-1. So the Panzer II is over here somewhere. He was last spotted over here anyway. Now in a head-on duel with a Panzer II, I lose. Because he has the armour to bounce me and I do not have the armour to bounce him. But thankfully this is not a head-on duel, but someone else kills him, and that was it. And it may not have looked like I did a huge amount in that game. I got 2 kills, put some damage into some people. But that was actually first-class mastery, and that kind of highlights a couple of things. That highlights how bad the gun is, that highlights the mobility of this tank. And also up on the hill on Himmelsdorf, you got to see that it's got good gun depression as well. So let's just whip back to the garage for some concluding remarks. So what do I think of this thing overall? Well, I can't honestly tell you it's a good machine, because it's kinda not. The gun just lets it down too much. Despite the potential of it, it's just... there are people against whom you really struggle, and particularly with the current way that Tier 2 games tend to pan out with so many T-18s, it's just painful sometimes. Having said that, you can still have fun driving this tank around, and the single best thing about this tank is the 15 degrees of gun depression, but that doesn't really come into proceedings all that much. But you can still have fun in this. I mean, I wouldn't recommend going out and trying to get hold of one, but if you've got one lying around, I mean, yeah, you can enjoy it. Then again, you might want to sell it. What is the selling price for it? Oh, something of the order of 150,000 credits, and of course then you will get a garage slot from it as well. You might prefer that option. But as I say, you certainly can have fun in it. I think this is generally inferior to the T1E6, which I have already done a review of. So I think if you own both and you don't want both, the T1E6 is probably the better one to keep, in my opinion. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this wee little review. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.